All right, so welcome everybody to another episode of After Impact. Today we're going to be diving deep with Jason Silva, and joining me on the mic, rocking the mic today, is Dr. Finesse, also known as Christopher McDonald. Agent Smith is out sick today, but we have the doctor in his place. So here we go. All right. What do you have for us, Dr.
So, Tom,
Finesse?
I'm going to start with the quote from the episode.
All right.
Art is the lie that reveals the truth. I guess talk to me about what that means to you, and also about the larger mission of impact theory.
Oh, wow. So we're going hard right off the
Indeed.
bat. Art is the lie that reveals the truth. It's actually really interesting. It's something that Jason talks about a lot, and when you go back and really look at how long humans have been creating art, painting on cave dwellings, all the way up through modern art, it really is our attempt to externalize the internal experience that we have. And filmmaking to me is sort of the ultimate version of that. But I think every art, from all the different impressionistic and abstract and modern variations of painting and things like that, you really are able to say something about the object that you're looking at. And whether the object that you're looking at is a romance, like in a movie, or it's a bowl of fruit or a clock, like Dali, so famously painted, you're able to comment on it. And I think that's really art's great ability, is to externalize the internal. So it's a lie, I guess, in the sense that it is not objective, and that if you were using any sort of objective measuring device, you're not going to get some of the things that you see in the subjective artistic world. But it really does tell you that emotional flavor. So I think that's art's ability, is to communicate that you're not alone, to take these really deep things that we all experience and think that nobody else has felt like that, and externalize it. And I remember my mom, actually, when I first realized that I was in love with Lisa, and my mom said, the most intoxicating thing about love is feeling like there's no way anybody in the world has ever felt like you felt, like you feel in that moment.
That is true.
Right?
That is very true.
And so my mom's statement, that is art to me, that her ability to cut to the truth of what it feels like to be in love. Like, I remember that, man. I'm looking at my wife right now. I remember that. And that sense that, no, there's no way. No one has ever felt like this. It's not possible. Like, how do things get done if people feel like this? And that's art's ability. Art's great ability is, like my mom, able to cut through all the clutter, all the noise, and reveal some inner truth that you thought only you had ever experienced, and suddenly you realize that you're not alone.
Wow, that's amazing.
Oh, and then you asked me to tie it back to what we're doing here at Impact Theory.
Correct.
Impact Theory will only be fully revealed over time, and this is one of the great intoxicants for me in this company, is knowing that we're laying the foundation for something grand and fundamentally paradigm shifting, that it's this multi-phased approach that will begin to reveal itself to people. And no matter how many times we try to tell people what we're doing, and it's on the website right now, they're not really going to understand until the paradigm shift is happening. And being able to really look at the drivers of culture, which to me is mythology. That's the fundamental driver of culture, is mythology. And that we've gotten so good as a society to create this wonderful mythology, from Toy Story to Star Wars to all this stuff going on, certainly in comic books, novels, everything. Like, we're really, really good at creating the mythology, but we don't know how to internalize it. We don't know how to look at Iron Man and say, I actually want to become Tony Stark, right? And so that really is the bridge that we want to gap, and the gap that we want to bridge. It's funny how some part of your brain knows that you misspoke, even though it happens. So that's the gap that we want to bridge. And in really looking at how you do that, to me, commerce is the great engine. Commerce is the thing that is going to allow us to bridge that gap. And what does that look like? To me, it looks like really beginning to show people how to deconstruct mythology and how to apply it to entrepreneurship, because I think people right now really don't understand why we're focused on two things, which is mythology creation and entrepreneurship. And to me, the reason is that entrepreneurship does not mean owning a business. It means being able to look at an obstacle and figuring out how to overcome that in service of your goal. So if your goal is to be the best mom ever, awesome. But there's going to be so many obstacles. And in fact, that's more terrifying to me than actually running a business. I think it was Aristotle or Plato who said the only impossible job is being a parent. And kids are like the butterfly effect incarnate. Like, who knows what weird comment on one day by some kid at school or a teacher that says something kind. Or, in fact, just today, my wife was telling me a story from her childhood where this guy made this offhanded comment. It was a guy that she really liked, and he made this offhanded comment that she had like a really great back, right? Like, she's playing sports or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, you have a really great back."
He meant it in the literal sense.
Yeah,
not
like.
the
Like you have
Yeah.
she has my wife she works like a demon, but she has like a really muscular back.
Yes.
And so he made some offhanded comment, which who knows what it even meant to him, but she's carried it, all these years. And that's the butterfly effect for me, just like at its absolute finest. So that raising kids to me is way more terrifying than building a business. But to bring it all back around, like the notion of what we're trying to do is really show people how execution is the name of the game and how mythology can help you in execution. And that there was a time where this was incredibly true, and we're still telling those stories today. And my obsession with Joseph Campbell and the power of myth, it really goes into it. I won't belabor the point here, but so that's what we're doing. We're going to change society by changing mythology and showing people how to use it in execution.
That's great. As far as Jason Silva, what is it about his work that resonates with you?
He's a poet, and it's funny. My wife was saying like, she's watching the episode and she was like, I totally get why you really like this guy. Cause to me, he's a modern philosopher poet. And he's looking at the deepest ideas that we face as a species, literally, and saying, I'm going to deconstruct this and make this accessible to people. And he said a lot, like, don't judge the things that I say like you would an academic. I'm not an academic. I am a poet. I'm an artist. And to me, artistry is a thing that is so often missing from what scientists are doing that would make it accessible. Artists, what they do is they make you feel something, right? To your the first quote that you started with, artists make you feel something about the subject matter that you're diving into. And that's why we're approaching this from mythology. Mythology really did the same thing, right? Mythology is meant to use narrative to reveal some underlying truth about how you should behave, what the world is like, what it's like to be at the mercy of nature, all the things that that mythology was meant to tackle. And it makes it accessible. It makes it like our minds are just wired for narrative. And to fail to understand that, and that's why it makes me laugh when people are so surprised by the rise of social media. Social media is a way for us to construct a narrative, to really frame our life, to say who we either are, who we want to be, and like, don't ever be surprised that people mythologize their own lives, right? Like, you have to make it, you have to be able to encapsulate your experience and transmit it. And so that's what Jason is able to do. He's able to encapsulate these big ideas and transmit them.
Wow. Okay, well, in the episode, you and Jason discuss how important it is to make people feel something when you're presenting an idea. This comes down to understanding how to package your message and tell a story, a skill that must be developed in most people. What are some of the small things that people can do to become better storytellers?
Everything comes down to practice. I mean that, and oh God, that's really cheap because I need to tell you what to practice, and hopefully right now people are blowing up the comments saying that they're just not okay with that answer. So God, what should you practice? All right, understanding what details are critical, that's important. Understanding what details are going to resonate emotionally with people. I think the most important part of a story is emotional resonance, and unless you can tap into the universal, and that's something Joseph Campbell talks very powerfully about in The Power of Myth, is finding these elemental things, these things that are so true of what it means to be a human, just understanding how we're going to process data. And that was one of the most interesting things for me about film school, is they begin to teach you about the physical way in which people interact with a film. So they talk about the ear and how there's this muscle around the ear, and as sounds get louder, that muscle actually tightens and it essentially turns down the volume on the ear. So if you want something to be like sustained loud, you have to understand that you have to like punctuate it with moments of silence or it won't be loud again. And that's something that has been handled really, really powerfully in movies like Gravity, where they've got in the capsule, out of the capsule, or was it in the helmet and then out of the helmet, and so they're able to punctuate like absolute silence, which then makes your ear relax so that you can then have a loud noise again. So understanding like those really fundamental, elemental things about the way that people are digesting your information, that's really, really important. So understanding neurology, the brain, all of that, just understanding humans and then do it over and over and over. Tell a story, watch for the reaction. Tell a story, watch for the reaction. Refine, refine, refine.
Refine, refine, refine. Okay, this question comes from one of our impactivists.
Nice.
Tom, does it worry you that virtual reality and ultimately singularity might result in the population re-entering the matrix, but this time one that would genuinely be controlled by machines and the people who design them? I find the upsides of virtual reality helping us work together to solve worldwide crisis so exciting, but to be honest, I'm somewhat sad at the idea that this beautiful and perfect reality wouldn't be enough for us ever again.
Man, so he and I really see things differently. So rather than go off on my own tangent about how excited I am about that, let's just deal with the fundamental human truth. So here, technology is a one-way street, period. You're never going to be able to stop it. Now the question becomes why? Why are you never, ever, ever going to be able to stop technology? And the reason is technology is hope. And you may be able to hit reset points, like you may be able to blow everybody up, and now we go backwards, but it'll just rebuild again. Like technology is a hope for a better life, and so everything from fire to language to all the things that Jason's actually going to be exploring in his new show Origins, which that is me plugging the shit out of that show for my boy. I'm under no contractual obligation to do that, but yeah, just I'm so excited about that show. Yeah, that is, my wife is telling me to look at the cameras. It's totally fucking distracting me. So I have no idea where I was going with that, but I'm going to look you guys right in the eye while I say that I have no idea where I was headed with that. Yeah, what was where was I supposed to take us on that one?
Well, he wanted to know if there are some
Oh
upsides.
yeah, God, we're getting sucked back into the matrix. So my whole thing is that technology is a one-way street. It's never going to go backwards, minus catastrophe, and even catastrophe will only reset, and then we will, keep going again. So that to me is you're never going to be able to crush out hope. You wouldn't want to. Stay optimistic. I think amazing things are going to happen. Like anything, it's going to be a mixed bag. It'll be a bumpy ride. It's not going to be like smooth sailing. It's going to be hard to get us there. But, at the end of the day, I think that transcending our limits is part of the human spirit, and wanting to get off the planet, wanting to climb to the top of a mountain, wanting to build societies. That is one of the things that has led us to be the apex predator. So stuff like that, I don't know. I just don't struggle with that emotionally. I don't have a problem with that. I think that once we're dealing inside of a truly constructed reality, which maybe we already are, right? But once we're in the next recursive version of the Matrix, if this is the Matrix, then we'll create things that are even more interesting and more beautiful. And I'm sure there will also be suffering. And, I doubt that we'll ever be able to fully get rid of that. But since we don't really know what's going to happen, and I don't think we could stop it without something violent and destructive anyway, which is already the negative thing that you fear. So why would you bring that about? Without that, then, just be optimistic and try to shape it. And that's my thing is, as a sort of junior futurist, as I referred to myself in the episode, try to bring that future into being that you think is great, but trying to stop the future from happening to me is a fool's errand.
Yeah, just to jump in, I completely agree. I mean, we've seen it time and time again from people way back in the day who used to just use a pen to write. And suddenly this typewriter comes along. It's like, what is this technology? I don't want to learn the typewriter. Then they're getting left behind because they didn't learn to type. And, when the television came along and propelled technology and propelled information coming your way, and people didn't adapt to it, and they didn't adapt to it. And same thing with the iPhone. It took me a while to get an iPhone. I was like, what is this? I don't need an iPhone. And I got left behind. I was still on, I didn't think I had a BlackBerry. I think I had a Nokia flip phone.
Wow.
And I was still behind, and people were sending me photos that I couldn't get. You just have to adapt or die when it comes to technology. I'm on the same page with you.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me how people resist. And the one example that I will give of myself is I resisted 3D animation. And I refused to go see Toy Story. And the reason was I'll give you an idea. I so value the ability to draw. Like it is so amazing to me and so impressive, and something I so desperately aspire to and wish that I had some sort of natural gift so that it would be sort of high return for me to practice that. 'Cause I'm not saying I couldn't get good at it. I'm just saying it's not a high return thing for me because I don't have sort of the natural skills that I could build on. I love that so much. When I was 19, I said, and I didn't meet my wife till I was 24. When I was 19, I said, I will either marry somebody who can draw or sing. Like that, those two things are just so captivating to me.
Yeah.
So to me, 3D animation signaled the death of the ability to really draw. Now, obviously, I've since really come to understand how much artistry still remains in the 3D world. Now I'm totally obsessed with it. But that was the one sort of Luddite moment in my life where I was foolishly resisting the future. And now, like, seeing what they're able to do with 3D animation is so amazing. And I love it so much that it's like that and halloumi cheese. Remind me to tell that story someday. Toy Story and the beauty that is 3D animation and halloumi cheese have taught me two very powerful lessons about not resisting trying new things, not resisting change. Like, shape the change, right? The best way to predict the future is to create it. Shape the change rather than be afraid of it. And I actually have somebody that I used to be very, very, very close to. And this person literally was prepared to become a draconian leader. And if you know what draconian means, like to crush down all scientists, because he is so afraid of the future. Like he's actually prepared to dedicate himself to that.
Wow.
That shit always struck me as like so crazy. It's like, be raw. Come on. Like, so you're going to like crush what it means to be human to spare us from what? The fact that we might do something destructive. So you'd rather usher that in? Like, it's so weird to me.
Yeah, it's a little crazy.
So I have a couple of Facebook Live questions.
Yeah, buddy.
So this one comes from Michael Foster. What triggers your flow state, and how do you stay in the zone for long periods of time?
Well, so the question, what triggers my flow state and how do I stay in a state of flow for a long time? So first of all, I want to remind everybody that if you share this, that you enter to win one of the books off my reading list. And I'm trying to make Agent Smith proud right now. He told me not to forget to remind people about that. So yeah, what gets me into a flow state? So for me, it's all about concentration. It's about deep work. I need to find a way to tune out the distractions, and then especially if the stakes are high. So I'll give you an example. When I'm preparing for an episode of Impact Theory, in fact, yesterday was a great example. So yesterday, the guest was flying in. They ended up being really late. And so my day sort of drug out, and I never really had that moment of like, okay, they're coming now. And because I didn't have that time pressure, it like kept getting pushed back. I never actually got into flow with my research because I didn't have the stakes of like, I'm running out of time. And there's something about having the high stakes moment where, you know, you really have to get it done in crunch time. And actually, honestly, I think Shaun White summed it up way better than I'm doing now, which is that you have practiced something so much, the stakes are incredibly high, and some part of you doesn't give a shit. Like, that's when you really get into flow, because when you're obsessed too much about the victory, about crushing it, whatever, that you stay in your own head. So you actually have to not give a shit a little bit. And then that allows you to really slip into flow. But when I think about trying to get into flow for me, what I'm thinking about very specifically is deep work. So I put my headphones on. I'll put like film scores on, so there's no lyrics, because I find that lyrics are...
I didn't know that. I do the same thing.
Really?
Swear to God, I have a film score playlist on my phone.
B-Raw, then we got to share.
Yeah, we got to share. Yeah.
My man. All right, what's some go-tos for you?
Oh, man. Anything by John Barry.
Really? I don't even think he's on my playlist.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man, he's fantastic. Somewhere in Time, the Dances with Wolves. Absolutely love that one.
Wow.
And Hans Zimmer. I mean, you can't go wrong with him.
I'm deep on the Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, Rachel Portman. That's kind of hers is kind of romantic, but gets you in the zone. I mean, just anything you could think of.
Wow. Now, do you specifically avoid lyrics?
Not all the time, but 9 times out of 10, I put on a movie score. 9 times out of 10. And if I'm doing something athletic, I always go to Bill Conti, Rocky. Always go to, specifically Going the Distance.
Nice.
I mean, I will play the hell out of a sporting event if I put that on first.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So if I need to get amped up, I'm doing lyrics all day.
Really?
Lyrics are super critical to me. But if I'm trying to create, then I can't have the lyrics, because my mind grabs onto words so powerfully that I go down into whatever emotion they're trying to express, convey, whatever. Whereas when it's just the music, it tunes out all the distractions for me. I'm not thinking about anything else. Like I don't hear anything else. My world just like closes down. And for me, that which I've heard, I actually have never done. What's that drug that makes you focus?
Ooh, I wouldn't even know.
What is it? Adderall? Adderall. So the millennial in the crowd's like, Adderall, motherfucker.
Exactly.
Let me tell you right now. You want some? So yeah,
She jumped
I've
on
never
it.
fucked with Adderall. I did. Oh God, what's the one that keeps you awake? They gave it to fighter pilots. It's anti-narcolepsy. We're totally derailing on drugs, but I think that Jason would really appreciate it. So let's like go down this path. I've never done psilocybin, which is like his jam.
Oh yeah.
But God damn it, what is the name of that drug? It's an anti-narcoleptic. Anyway, I've done that. That was actually amazing. When I travel to the UK, if I can get my hands on it, like that's the bee's knees. It doesn't like make you feel amped. You just aren't tired. And until you've experienced it, it's hard to explain that there's a difference between like the sort of jittery caffeine thing and then just not being tired. It is the absence of sleepiness. And so that's super powerful if you're traveling. And hopefully by the end of this, I will remember what it's called. But yeah, I've never done Adderall. But when people do Adderall, they say that like your world, your focus just becomes like laser. Like you can literally feel your world sort of closing in. That's how I feel when I put headphones on. I love over-the-ear headphones, like love over-the-ear headphones. In fact, so originally when we were doing the show, I had headphones like my man, Dr. Finesse here, and it just wasn't getting me like in the vibe. So we had to find a way for me to be able to use these.
You had to go with the Bose.
Yeah, I had to like get them over ear. So yeah, music, no lyrics, deep work where I know that I've got something intense to focus on. Hopefully there's some stakes. That's how I stay in it. But I do pop out. Like, there's no question. I wouldn't say that I get into flow for maybe more than like 45 minutes at a time. Like, more than that's tough. If I'm writing, though, and there have been times, oh, God, hey, fun story. And by the way, if people are like, dude, we got it, then I'll move on. But like, this is interesting to me. So there was one time I worked as a full-time writer at one point in my life. And I was writing the story that was set when it was raining. So in the story, it's raining.
Okay.
Now, I had blackout curtains, but like photographic blackout curtains. So there was absolutely no light in the room other than from the computer.
Okay.
I was writing in the middle of the day, and I'd been writing for like 8 hours, whatever. I walked out of the room, opened the door, and like bright sunlight everywhere. It was so disjoining because in my head, it had been raining for the last 8 hours. It was gray, it was dreary, it was cold, raining. And when I came out, I realized, oh my God, that was all make-believe. So there are times where if I'm writing, I can get into a prolonged zone. All right.
All right, so there's another question from John Spitz. He says, he loved the interview, so thank you for that.
Absolutely.
The book Lynchpin speaks about our school system and the lack of artistry. How do you think we can change that in schools now?
So the question is, the book Lynchpin, which is by Seth Godin, an amazing book, talks about how there's a lack of artistry in school and how do we address that. And I don't know that I have any good insights into education. I think that there are some pretty profound people working on it. I will simply say that if you can ignite somebody's imagination, if you can get them to really fall in love with what they're doing, then you've got a shot. And I think that what Elon Musk is pondering, I don't know how deep he is in it, but what he's pondering from an educational standpoint is pretty interesting, which is to gear it all around problem solving, which for me makes a lot of sense. Like I remember in math, I was really bad at math, unless the teacher would make me go to the board. And then I had to figure it out, right? Because she's not going to let me sit down. Like the fact that I don't know it is very evident. And there's something fascinating in education where when you're learning something, a lot of times some part of your brain thinks you understand it, but you really don't. So you'll be sitting there taking notes, go, yeah, totally got this, got it. And then you go to do it and you're like, holy shit, like there's some gap in here that I didn't actually realize that I had. And so being at the board really forced me to actually learn it. So I think really showing kids how this stuff is going to be advantageous, how they're going to use it is really, really important. But what I don't understand is kids don't know what they want, right? Like 99 times out of 100, kids do not know what they want. They don't know what they're going to go on to do, what's going to really light them on fire. And so how you don't give everybody some sort of base, I don't know. And like, I really thought math was a joke. I thought it was stupid. And then I became an entrepreneur and realized, oh my God, like I use math all the time. And like not understanding math now was holding me back, and like really having to spend time like learning how to do things like find the percent of something, which I didn't know how to do because I cheated my way through high school. And then in college, I didn't have to take it. So it's like, you know, when people ask, like, what would you go back and tell your, you know, younger self? I would punch myself in the mouth and say, fucking pay attention in class. Like, actually learn this shit. You're going to use it. Like, this stuff is actually usable unless you plan to be a cog in a machine somewhere. Like, knowledge is power, man. Like, really acquire this stuff. So, long story short, I have no good answers. I am not the person to ask that question to. But thank you. Nonetheless, it was fun to answer.
All right. So, how do you sustain inspiration, particularly during the banality of building a business?
Oh God, I want to like eat the mic as I answer this question. All right. So this I'm a fucking expert on. I will tell you this right now. Everybody at home, whatever you're doing, if you're driving a car, I want you to stop, pull over. I want you to take notes on this shit. All right. Your brain is a runaway machine. It is not going to pay attention to you. It is going to flit and flirt and fly all around the place. And your job is to sit down and do deep work and really get good at things. And the way to do that is to learn neuroanatomy, to understand how the brain works, to understand that it bounces around, but most importantly, to understand that things like attention can be crafted. Now, I'm going to liken this to love because I think it's something that most people are going to be able to understand. Here is the truth about love. Here's the truth about learning. Here's the truth about getting good at anything, grabbing hold of your brain, whatever the case may be. It will never happen by accident. You're not going to stay in love forever. Love is not something that is a perpetual motion machine. It doesn't just stay and continue. You have to decide what you're going to focus on. So with love, for instance, with my wife, I knew even before I met her that love is a chemical state. That's it. It's certain brain chemistry happening in your brain. And just like a fire will eventually burn itself out, no matter how big, no matter how bright, no matter how much wood there is on that fire, ultimately it will burn out unless you do what? Put more wood on the fucking fire,
Yes.
right? Like go chop down a tree, cut it up, put it on the fire. You can keep it going forever, right? There's nothing that says that that fire can't last forever. It just an unattended fire can't last forever. So you have to learn how to maintain your brain chemistry. You have to learn how to maintain your focus. You have to learn how to get excited about something. So how do I stay passionate? How do I stay enthusiastic? How do I stay excited about something? I understand that like right now, I am actually practicing being excited. I know that the way moving my arms, right? For people that are just listening, my arms are up, yes?
Yep.
All right, my arms are up because I know that the way that you change your physicality changes your brain chemistry. That I know when I do this, like if you see me do this, I am like riding a wave of what's happening, like the passion, the energy, like even the way that like I'm bouncing myself. I'm doing all of this stuff because I practice it time and time again. The fact that I start talking faster, I force myself to do that. I force myself to do that. And I want people to understand that's how you start getting good at this stuff is you understand like people want the beautiful things in their life like passion, love. They want it to be natural. They want it to be automatic and they will all fail because the human mind does not work like that. The human mind, neurons that fire together, wire together. So you have to force some sort of correlation. You have to force these things together. You've got to practice them. You've got to put them on a loop so that if I want to get excited now, because I've done it so many times where when I feel like that first like thread of excitement, I fucking pull and pull and pull. And I do all the things that I need to do to reinforce it, to amp it up, to get it going so that I change my posture. And now just changing my posture will change the way that I feel. In fact, if I start like, oh God, this has happened sometimes, where I'll be sitting with a guest, I'll be doing an interview, and for whatever reason, I'm just fucking low energy. And I know I'm bringing the show down. Now, I know it's because for whatever reason, my brain is going slowly. But I know how to reverse speed up my brain. Normally, you start talking fast because your brain is going fast. But I know that the reverse will work as well. And if I start talking fast, my brain will speed up. So I'll be sitting there and I know, like, and I use this technique a lot. My wife is not impressed with me right now. Okay? And everything I do in life, everything is a ruse to impress my wife. That's it. If you want to know why I exist because I love the neurochemistry of impressing my wife so much. Like the world could fucking hate me, but if she looks at me with that look, like, you know the look, right? If she looks at me with that look, like nothing else matters. And so I've just had to learn like to capture all these things so that I can get good. So when I have that moment where I'm thinking my wife is not impressed right now, I force myself to reverse engineer the things that will get me into that brain state. I hope y'all took notes. That's one of the secrets to the universe.
I took some notes in my head. I'm learning something. I tell you,
And I've now gotten so amped up, like I have to take my sweatshirt off.
Yeah. I mean, just
in
in time for Valentine's Day, I'm gonna come back
buddy.
to my wife and be extra romantic with some of those
Hell yeah.
words, man. Okay, so here's another quote: "To fully and vividly live in the present is to also be acquainted with the fact that it is expiring as we live through it." How do you relate to this?
You know, it's interesting. That's something that really like haunts Jason. And I think that what makes him so great is he so fears the fleeting. And I love that about him. And I really think that that essentially is the foundation to all of his art. And we actually talk about that in the episode that, you know, his existential dread over the impermanence of everything is all tied to that. I don't have that same fear. Like, I so fully get that everything that we do is fleeting, that I'm so excited about whatever's coming next, and I so understand how to recreate the feeling that while that moment may pass, that in fact, I'll say it another way. Thank God everything is fleeting. Thank God. So I've studied Buddhism. While I do not consider myself a Buddhist by any means, and I'm sure there are many people that could slap me around with knowledge of Buddhism, but there's one line that always stuck with me, and it is my most cherished belief from everything that I've ever encountered with Buddhism, and that is, this too shall pass. This too shall pass.
I live by that.
Right? And so here's why I will never commit suicide, ever. Like, I just so know that that concept is so foreign to me because of two things. One, I know how to manipulate my brain chemistry, and that I know that even like true mental illness, depression can be unwound, not easily. I'm not saying it's easy, okay? But as somebody who has struggled very profoundly with anxiety, I can tell you this shit is unwindable. So you can unwind it. You can rewire your brain literally. So one, I know that brain chemistry is manipulatable, that the brain is malleable, that you can change it. And then two, this too shall pass. Like, whatever thing is dragging you down, and I'll speak for myself, whatever thing is dragging me down, I just tell myself, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. Like, and sometimes it does not pass quickly, right? It can be months, maybe it's a year, but it is going to pass, especially if you're doing all the things that you need to unwind that mental pattern, right? And I struggled with anxiety and still do, quite frankly, but not like I used to. And so unwinding that was a multi-year process. So when I say this too shall pass, I'm not saying that it happens like in an instant, but I'm saying that if you put in the work, you know, it's going to pass. And the intensity of emotions, like those pass. Heartbreak, death, like it all passes. So because I have that, like, I'm grateful that Jason sees it a different way, because he's created such beauty out of that fear of transience. But fuck, man, I am grateful for it. I am grateful that anguish doesn't last. And if what I have to accept is that beauty and joy also dissipate, so that I know that anguish could never grip me forever, dude, I'm okay with that.
Why do you think anxiety and depression is so prevalent today? And I mean, and this goes again a
Dude,
lot.
that's like, you want to talk about a question aimed at why impact theory exists. That's the one. So just as a quick reminder, and thank you, Cindy, for that. Everybody, this is After Impact. We're going deep on the Jason Silva episode. And by the way, if you share this, you enter yourself to win one of the books off my reading list. So please, guys, share this. It's going to help us build this community, which is our everything. Okay, so the question, why do I think that depression and anxiety is so prevalent? I think there are a lot of factors that I don't understand, and so please, that the answer that I'm about to give, understand I'm well aware that this is a very, very partial answer. But this comes down to the modern context that we're living is sort of always on, always active. Somebody like myself who actually enjoys that fact, but understands there's now something that you have to combat, which is, the levels of stress, the levels of when you're striving for something, the inevitable comparisons, the focusing on things that you don't have, really driving yourself to achieve. We live in this hyper-connected society where there's so many people, so there's so many tales of grandiosity, and normally we're only in groups of 150 people, and in a group of 150 people you can probably more easily find a place to deliver value because it's a much smaller group, and so there's much fewer people to compete against. And as this gets bigger and bigger, and we're always on and always pushing, and it's never enough, and keeping up with the Joneses and all that, and we don't understand, and this is the key, we don't understand that our brain is wiring itself with all the things that we focus on. So if we spend all of our time with what we lack, And we spend all of our time with how we don't measure up, and we spend all of our time feeling judged by people, and that's what we focus on. That's what your brain's going to wire for. And you are literally hardwiring yourself for anxiety, for depression. Okay, it is a state of wiring. So you have to really, really be careful. And I think I've talked aggressively about how I use the chip on my shoulder, how I use not feeling adequate to propel me forward. But I also really, really hope people hear that I am so aware that I get what I focus on, that I spend, and we'll tie it to the 80-20 rule, that 80% of my time I'm focused on what's beautiful, what I'm grateful for, what's empowering, joy, love, all the amazing things. And then only 20% of my time using that stuff to kick me in the ass, to, the negative stuff to propel me forward. So I'm very, very careful about what I focus on.
All right. This kind of goes along anxiety and depression, I believe. Jason talks about having a fire in your belly, which you have also referred to as a sickness. For people who don't wake up every day with this feeling, how do they harness that fire?
You got to create it, man. Like you have to create it. So for instance, when I can feel that my brain is slowing down and I'm not making quick connections and I just feel like a chump, what most people do is they start panicking and they start thinking, oh my God, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. Mm-hmm. Maybe I really am a chump. Maybe I'm not good at this. Like, oh my God, what if this has all been self-delusion? And they just spin out of control. I do something very different, which is when I can feel that my brain is mush and that little voice in my head goes, this has all been a lie. You're actually not good at this. Like, you're really slow. You've always been a little dim-witted. That's when I go, yeah, well, that would be stupid to listen to that. I know if I start talking faster right now that my brain will actually speed up to catch up. Here we go. And now the mere act of doing that, like, you start pumping different chemicals in your brain. Or if I'm just like cortisol is coursing through me and I'm feeling my anxiety rise, I'll start breathing, meditating, right? In fact, I'll just put a really fine point on this. I have learned to use my physicality to manipulate my brain chemistry. And that has been an obsessive study of mine now for 10 years or more.
I'm going to have to look into that.
I do it, and every answer you're looking for is there. Wim Hof is somebody that I really, really want to get on the show. I was doing some research on him this morning. Dude, that guy is crazy, crazy. And I remember
the Iceman, right?
Yeah, the Iceman. When I first learned about him, honestly, I thought, nope, there's no way. There's no way. Like, this is total bullshit. Like, this is some one-off thing, and like, I couldn't believe it. He's been studied now, like 6 Ways to Sunday, where they injected him with some virus, and they can actually watch him alter his immune system. It's just crazy. It's crazy. So basically, what he's learned how to do is get control of his autonomic nervous system. It's amazing. So human potential is ridiculous. None of us are anywhere near the outer edges of it. So,
okay. Well, Jason says
Cindy's trying to flag us down.
Oh, sorry, Cindy. Jump right in.
So this one comes from Danbro Fitness.
Damn, bro, what's up, dude?
So first, we'll start with, what did you learn from Jason Silva? So your biggest takeaway from the episode, and then the second question would be, reflecting back on your studying the brain over these years, where would you begin? Or like recommend someone to begin?
Okay, so let me just remind myself that I have 2 questions. What did I learn from Jason? And then where to begin with the brain? Okay, I'm going to practice holding those 2 things. So what have I learned from Jason? So this concept of ecstasis, of really holding on to that, really being able to cultivate that, and quite frankly, turn it into art. And if I can sort of lump 2 things together, using your sickness to create something beautiful. So Jason's sickness is that he is so afraid of the ephemeral nature of joy, of beauty, of a shared moment with somebody, that he creates things for himself to be able to hold on to them, for them to last longer. And out of that has been born Jason Silva, right? And I love that about him so much. And while I've always used my sickness to drive me towards success, I haven't necessarily used it to drive me towards creating something of beauty. And so that is really, really interesting, especially as we step into the phase that we're stepping into now, where storytelling is going to be a big thing for us. To create literal art is going to be a big thing for us. That's a really important reminder that you can really funnel those emotions into something truly, truly wonderful. Where to begin with the brain? Wow. So my book list, which is 25 books long, not all of them deal directly with the brain, but some of them deal certainly indirectly. If I had to like say what book, I would start with Incognito by David Eagleman. That's a great place to start for like real neuroanatomy. And then anybody who's in a relationship, if you're female or in a relationship with a woman of any kind, your mother, wife, sister, so basically everybody, there's a book called The Female Brain. I knew my wife would look up. You all saw me pause, right, and look, because I knew my wife was going to look up.
And I turned and looked too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for Schweiz. My wife is obsessed with this book. It is amazing, and it's all about the neuroanatomy of the female brain and how it changes. It's just so incredible. But yeah, so those two books are just straight neuroanatomy. Great places to start.
Cindy, did you have a...
All right, while we wait to see what Cindy has for us, I will say share this bad boy and enter to win one of the 25 books on my list. In fact, we could get you Incognito. The Female Brain isn't on my list. That's the one hard thing about cramming things down into 25 books. Like, it's tough. Like, there are 100 other books, easily 100 other books that are just game changers, totally amazing, that aren't on my list. So please don't think that is like some definitive list, but they are the first 25 books you should read. In order, by the way. I put them in order just to make it really nice and easy. You can be read out of order, of course, and I didn't read them in that order, but that's my best attempt at optimizing those things for you guys.
So this one comes from Chris on Facebook. Can you give me a brief example of what sort of talk-down technique you use to calm yourself when you feel your anxiety rise?
I don't talk. So what kind of talk down do I use to lower my anxiety? I don't talk. Breathing is the key to anxiety. Breathing. Like, you have to trigger. So let's talk about, like, people, you really need to start at a physical level, because anxiety is a physiological response. Something I had never talked publicly about before until like a week ago is how being cold makes me feel anxious, and that's why I hate being cold so much, because the physiological response of being cold is identical to the physiological response that I get with anxiety. So like this slight shivery, this unrooted sense. I don't know. I don't feel like rooted. Yeah, I don't feel grounded. I don't know how else to explain it. So being cold gives me that same fucking feeling. So literally, whether you make me cold or you actually trigger like some fear-based anxious response, I feel the same. So that's why I like bundle up to death, because I don't want to get in like an anxiety loop.
Okay.
But I'm actually now I started practicing it in New York to actually force myself to be cold and remind my brain to separate. And in fact, this is something that Jason talked about in the episode. He said, I get into these anxiety loops and then I just realize, I just need to pee. And that he's mistaking one physiological response for another. And so once you what's that? Yes.
She did.
Yes.
Yep, that's very true.
Mel Robbins.
Yeah.
Cindy was pointing out Mel Robbins. We got to get you a fucking mic while we're doing this, because you got great nuggets. So Mel Robbins said the same thing. Jason was talking about the same thing. Like you begin to mistake one physiological response for another. Now I bring all of that up because all of this to me starts with understanding how to go the other way, right? So if your brain hijacks your physiology, you can use your physiology to take back over your brain. And this is so critical. Like if you want to know one of the things that I've just used to propel myself forward, it's understanding things like laughing out loud, which my wife and I have used in our relationship so powerfully. Using physiology, speaking fast, taking up more space to get enthusiastic, to stay excited. So when I'm feeling anxious, I understand what's going on a physiological level. So you have two different parts of your nervous system. You've got the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight, flight, or freeze. And then you have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is known as rest and digest. So you're always fluctuating between these two modes. So if you find that one is going too far and the other needs to kick in, like when my brain is going slow, I'm way too far on rest and digest. I need to kick myself in to fight. I need to amp myself up. So I do things to my physiology to get my brain to speed up. So if I feel that I'm going into an anxiety loop, I know that I need to trigger the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest. And the way to do that, and dude, it's times like these that I wish I were religious because I want to thank somebody for having such an amazing trigger. Simply doing breath control, it's so weird. Like it works every time. It doesn't work sometimes. It works every fucking time. So learning how to, which is why I got into meditation, by the way, learning how to meditate, to use your breath control to eliminate anxiety has just been incredibly, incredibly powerful.
I've taken up, excuse me, I've taken up box breathing ever since you told me about
my
it.
boy Mark Divine.
Yeah, about a month ago. So I've been practicing box breathing, and it's kind of worked here and there. I mean, it's something you've got to learn eventually, and I suggest that to everyone out there. Box breathing is definitely key. So I thank you for that tip.
Absolutely, man. You can look up Mark Divine. Mark Divine will teach you all about box breathing.
Jason says he has an aversion to believing in magic, but still lives as if he believes in magic. It's paradoxical. Why do you have to be able to hold two competing ideas in your head in order to be successful?
Yeah. Man, this is this is like graduate level shit right here. This is your doctoral thesis. Being able to hold two ideas in your head is one of the most important things I think in the recipe for success. You have to be. I'll give you one that I hold all the time. Tom, you're good enough. Tom, you're not good enough. Dude, I hold those in my head all the time. And I'm sure this frustrates you guys to no end. Like people will come with the most amazing news. We had another clip go viral. What's up, Mel Robinson? Just broke 2 million on that. We obviously the Simon Sinek one was just unbelievable. Did over 150 million views. So we are now officially the viral video kings of this genre. Like for real though, right? I mean, we've had some clips like do some real business, which is amazing. And obviously we're just incredibly honored by the guests that come on and share this stuff. We are well aware that it is the guests that are going viral. And we see it as our job to create the environment for them to bring that to the table, which is why it's not happening for anybody else because we just create a totally unique environment. That's like an ad for us. So that's one for Jason, one for us. And, being able to create that environment where this guy, oh man, I really thought I could fucking vamp for a second and catch back where I was. But instead of dragging people down and having to cut this out, where were we headed?
Basically, I'm sorry,
What's
go
that?
ahead.
Two ideas.
Yes,
Yeah.
two competing ideas.
I really tried to bring that shit back around. So yeah, holding two competing ideas, it really is the thing that you need to do. So you're good enough, you're not good enough. They bring me the stuff. We just, went viral again. It was amazing. And now I'm just thinking, okay, what's that next thing, right? Like it's not enough. And now I'm back to, okay, well then the goal that we set for ourselves, because we had an ecosystem wide goal to, at the end of 2017, to be at 100,000 across the ecosystem. And we're growing so fast now, that's just not enough. So what people have to understand is I'm not saying like, hey, you guys have fucked up. I'm just saying that you've got to know when to go back and forth between these two. So now it's like, hey, by saying like we're not good enough, like we did this and we all came over here and we celebrated and we're like, oh my God, like we're amazing. We're the viral video kings. This is awesome. Like we're crushing it. We're growing so much faster. Now I know we have to shift back over here. And now we've got to focus on we're not good enough, right? Because if we don't do that, then we're not going to hit my real goal, which is 500,000 by the end of the year, right? So, and now everybody's panicking again. So, but that's you have to do that give and take, right? Because otherwise people get comfortable. And I think comfort is the death of success. Like you never be successful if you get comfortable. So, and that's just one example. I mean, there's just so many more.
Okay.
Yeah, break it down.
All right, so this one comes from Laura. You and Jason both use the power of storytelling to inspire yourselves and others so effectively. Does that mean you disagree with leaders like Eckhart Tolle, who say that all mental stories reinforce the false ego?
Yeah, I'm afraid I do. And is it Eckhart Tolle or Eckhart Tolle? Can somebody please? I need a definitive answer.
Thought it was totally,
I thought it was Tolle,
but I
don't know.
Totally, I don't know.
Oh man, and the thing is, I can't double down.
Yeah.
So if somebody who knows definitively wants to throw that into the comments, I would be forever grateful. So I do disagree with that, and I disagree with people that sneer at narrative. Totally. All right. So Eckhart Tolle. I've seen people that I consider just insanely intelligent sneer at narrative, and make it sound like you're making shit up. And that is how the human mind works. Like the human mind needs narrative to make sense of things. And when you can take an abstract concept and give it to people in the form of a narrative, like the human brain over hundreds of thousands, millions of years, depending on how you want to look at it, has been evolving to where we are now. And what it has optimized for is narrative. Simple as. Now you can sit there and fight it. It's like people that say, well, oh, fake it till you make it is bullshit. No, like that's how confidence works. Like that is literally the feedback loop that your brain is in. So I'll give you an example, and then somebody will help me get back on track with, do I disagree with Eckhart Tolle and narrative being a lie? If you guys have read Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, he talks about how kids that are the oldest in their class end up becoming professional athletes like disproportionately more than kids who are the youngest in their class. Why? Because there is a narrative being told to them accidentally through their actions that they're better than other people. But the truth is it's not real. They're just bigger and stronger because they're older. So they may not have any natural gifts, but merely by putting them, it's kind of like Rocky 3, where he keeps getting the fake easy fights.
Yes, it is.
So
Rocky
he's winning it's
3.
Is it 1? My wife just shamed herself on national television here.
And then Clever Lang beats him when it comes to reality.
Exactly. So that's what's happening. But these kids build so much confidence that they just continue to excel. And because they have confidence, they get better coaches. And then they do better because they have better coaches and more confidence. But it all started with bullshit. It all started with they just happened to be the oldest in their class. And so they were, by the realities of how we develop as human beings, they were a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little more emotionally intelligent. And so they did better. But it was purely relative. It's, the Clubber Lang effect. So is that fake? To me, it has a real outcome. So if it has a real outcome, that shit is real. And so narrative to me is how humans have communicated over millennia. It's how we transmit religion. It's how we transmit ideology. It's how we tell our kids what to do, what not to do. Like, it's all narrative. And now I will tell you the real fucking secret. Learn to tell yourself a story about yourself that's empowering. And I'll just say, and I am so fully expecting the DA is going to play this in court one day. I'm going to get sued for something stupid. And the DA is going to say, but Tom, you have said repeatedly that it's okay to lie to yourself. Yes, it's okay to lie to yourself. 100%. Like if you get a positive result out of that, like, of course. Like that's the only thing that makes sense. And everybody does it. The scary thing is, like, everybody lies to themselves. I'll fucking take the Pepsi challenge with anybody who says they don't lie to themselves. But you ready? You all lie to the negative. You all tell yourself you're worse than you are. That's fucking crazy to me. Like, that's so crazy. Why would you do that? Like, unless you're doing it, like, is the 20%, like, quick little hit of, okay, I'm not good enough, and so, now I'm going to bounce back and, like, be a bigger badass. But, okay, when you're doing it because it gives you the result you want, like, I'm in. But most motherfuckers just lie to themselves and tear themselves down and become less of who they could be because, I don't know, they want to err on the side. Like, they want to be more true than true. And so it's like, oh, it's so crazy.
Yeah, I don't understand why we do that to ourselves. I don't get it because I'm guilty of it for sure.
Everyone is. It's madness. It's madness, and no one will argue that that's bad. Like no one, oh yeah. Like rounding down, everybody's chill with that, right? Like let's say you're a woman and really you're a 7.5. Like everyone is cool with you rounding down to a 7, but people are gonna hate if you round up to an 8.
Yeah,
Baby girl,
yeah.
you're an 8. Like fucking, you're a 10. Like round that shit up.
Yeah.
Like whatever is going to empower you, like that's what you've got to be doing. Just simple as. Results.
That's great.
Check your beliefs against your results. Forget your behavior. Check your beliefs.
Your beliefs. You asked Jason, what do you see when you peer inside the singularity?
Yeah.
Now, I want you to answer that yourself.
Okay, so let's start with defining the singularity. So first of all, thank you guys so much for joining us. This is After Impact. We're going deep on Jason Silva, touching on some of the things that maybe we skimmed across the surface in the episode. We're going to go deep, really talk and take your feedback. We want to know what you guys think. Get some questions from you guys. And if you share this right now before I answer this amazing question about what the singularity is and what you're going to see when you peer into that, you're going to enter to a chance to win one of the books on my reading list. So get up on it. Grab it like you want it. Little throwback there. Dr. Finesse knows what's up. Okay, so first of all, the singularity is a term borrowed from physics, and it refers to the event horizon of a black hole where you cross over it, and the rules of physics are so warped and distorted and so little understood that we can't predict what happens on the inside of a black hole. Okay, so applied in the, as Jason said, the Silicon Valley vernacular, what the singularity refers to is the moment where technology is advancing so rapidly that we can no longer predict what it will look like. So the Ray Kurzweil, who's the guy that really co-opted the term for technology, believes in 2045 we will hit the moment of singularity. The reason he believes that is because of Moore's law, which hopefully you guys know what Moore's law is. And basically that's that computing power will double in speed and halve in cost every 18 months. Things changing where it was like vacuum tubes at one point. Now we're on transistors, and people believe, what's going to be the next thing? Is it going to be quantum computing, whatever? But people believe that Moore's law will stay true. And it stayed true through world wars and all kinds of stuff. So I'm sure long will it continue. So according to Ray Kurzweil, in 2045, we hit that point where now technology is just, it's advancing so rapidly that you can't possibly predict. And what I think is on the inside of that is the matrix. I think that's where truly we become digital beings. I don't think it's a matrix in the sense that our biological bodies are harvested for energy, which almost certainly will not happen. In fact, we will probably become entirely digital beings and just won't have a physical body. And I think it won't be binary. It's not going to be like today we're like this and tomorrow we're digital beings. It's going to be this slow process that everyone will opt into. It's actually not true. And if you've read Fahrenheit 451, it's going to be like that. Where there's two groups of people. There's people like out fucking living in the middle of nowhere trying to be Luddites forever, and so fine, they'll eventually. In fact, what will happen to them? I don't know. Like maybe they can be Luddites on Mars, and maybe that becomes what the colonies are. Is people that can really divorce themselves from technology. This stuff is so interesting. Like I am trying to remember that right now. My wife wants to punch herself in the throat just to not have to hear this anymore. But God, I could talk about this all day. So the factions that are going to happen, that's so intriguing. But I think that what will happen, we'll become digital. We'll be living in the matrix. We will create amazing, wonderful worlds that are just incredibly, incredibly interesting. But to make sure that people can't sleep tonight, I will also say that someone will figure out how to create a torture chamber where people no longer adjust to the level of pain. And imagine that first moment of pain. But the one thing we know as humans is it will dissipate, right? Humans can acclimate to anything. Mm-hmm. Imagine you couldn't. Oh, shit. But you got to focus on the optimistic stuff. You got to think of all the good things. But have fun sleeping tonight. But yeah, that it will be amazing. It will be amazing. We'll have experiences like anything we can imagine. All right, rate and review. Oh, God. Which, by the way, first of all, just thank you to the community. We've got how many reviews now? Got 75 reviews. We're 5-star. So grateful for that. But if you go to iTunes, right now, iTunes is our big push. If you could go there, rate and review us, would be eternally, eternally grateful. We're trying to get to 100. Only need 25 more. So that would be amazing. You know me. As soon as we get to about 90, I'm already thinking like 250. But for right now, help us get to 100. That would be fantastic. Also, you'll notice we're not doing Instagram Live during this anymore because we found a new format for Instagram Lives, which is a lot of fun. I hope you guys will join me over on IG. If you're not already following me on IG, it's at Tom Bilyeu. Get over there, turn on notifications, as the one and the only Cindy has pointed out. And we're doing hyper intimate, answering your questions one by one. So yeah, we tried one the other day. It was awesome. It was our best IG live ever. It was really, really a lot of fun. All right. So I don't know how much time we have, but I have a hard stop today. So we're going to have to take one more and then 1 minute. Yeah. Okay. Well, then we'll say our goodbyes. Dr. Finesse, thank you so much for joining us. And everybody, yes, everybody watching, please know this man, this is the guy that gets us these amazing guests. He is unbelievable. He is proof that your network is everything. Long-term relationships are all that matters. He's been dealing with a lot of these people for a very, very long time. He's just been an amazing human being. So honored to have him on the team. Really grateful that you filled in today for our boy Agent Smith, who is unfortunately out sick. And guys out in the community, You are our everything, and all that we're doing because we want to bring value to you guys. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for helping spread the word. And until next time, my friends, be legendary.